Coming up on the program, we're going to plant our pole beans, one of the easiest crops that you can put in your garden. And it's time for us to plant in our straw bale garden. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored by the following. MIgardener.com, over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, organic flowers, vegetables, and herb seeds, all for 99 cents. MIgardener.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil. With their new garden blend, improving soil structure in clay and sandy soil, great for creating new garden beds. Also available from Sioux's, pre-filled trays and pots with professional potting soil mix or organic rice hull-based potting soil mix. Bag and bulk of certified leaf compost also available. Visit SiouxGrowingSupply.com. Stop before you dig. Call Digger's Hotline first. Call 3 business days before you dig. It's the law. It's completely free and it's for your safety. Know what's below before you dig. It's your responsibility. Call Digger's Hotline or visit them at diggershotline.com. HappyLeafLED.com. Commercial grade grow light with a home gardener's affordability. No fans, no motors. Simply plug in and grow. Great for seed starting to lettuce to full grown tomatoes. All indoors. HappyLeafLED.com.
Sustain Natural Fertilizer, offering superior organic plant foods that deliver research-proven results. Trusted by farmers, growers, and gardeners for 30 years. Learn more at sustain.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. We're in the back of the large garden where we're going to plant our pole beans. Now, pole beans take about 70 to 80 days to reach a mature state in harvesting pods, and they'll produce all summer long until the frost kills them, or what we sometimes have problems with, bean rust coming in. It's an airborne pathogen that affects the leaves of the plants, and it actually, when you touch them, it mimics rust on a piece of metal. Your hands get all brown like rust. This here is the same location which we planted them last year. This is kind of a no-no, but we've revitalized the soil. We've added a lot of nutrients with organic matter such as leaves, as well as we can supplement it with some granular fertilizer from Sustain. We want to trellis these because beans, pole beans, if you don't want to do pole beans, you do bush beans. Pole beans, get them up off the ground, they can grow 15, 20 feet if the trellis is tall enough. We've noticed on our trellis, they'll grow up and then start growing back down. And they're much easier to harvest. So we've got 2 different types of pole trellises here. We've got one made out of a PVC pipe, a metal ring, 2 metal rings, and some jute rope, custom made, very easy. As well as we have 2 stair rails with a piece of bamboo, 2 pieces of bamboo at the bottom, and agricultural twine that the beans climb up. Now, you can be as creative as you wish. You could even use something like a fence to crawl up your beans. But again, if you don't have access to the beans on the other side, somebody else may get them. So what we want to do here, you obviously want to plant your beans when the warm weather has come and the soil is at least 60 degrees, 55, 60 degrees, consistent temperature. You're wanting to plant these about a ½ inch deep. And there's a variety of different pole beans in which you can choose from. We just go with the standard Blue Lake pole beans, and they do very, very well. We preserve them by freezing them. We find that canning them, it just doesn't have that crisp pop that we're looking for. So let's start with this pole trellis here. All I'm going to do is come in here, make a little valley, and I'm going to space these, about every 3 to 4 inches. You can over plant these very easily, and it's okay because they'll do just fine. And now, beans will fix their own nitrogen in the soil. That is correct. If you dig a bean plant up, you'll find on the bottom of the roots little nodulars or balls that you would think would be a disease. It's not a disease. It's actually the plant fixing its nitrogen that it needs to green up. It pulls it from the atmosphere. It's one of the legume plants. So if you do add fertilizer, it will use that fertilizer in which you put in the ground first, and then if needed, it will go to its natural state and create the nodulars and pull the nitrogen from the atmosphere. So either way, if you have really, really extremely poor soil, wouldn't hurt to add some good granular fertilizer of less than 10-10-10 would be best. So I've got these planted here. One thing you can do, see, I've got a dozen, two dozen there. I can actually go in here and I can plant a few more. And what those will do, well, those will crawl up the center here. So all we want to do is cover the beans here, and I'll cover the rest there. Now with this here, this trellis here, I'm going to plant in the furrow that I have here, and then I'm going to just let the trellis here just hang. These beans will naturally grow up and look for something to grab onto, and then they'll grow up the trellis without any problem whatsoever. Now, if you're going to mulch your bush beans, I would wait about a week after you plant. They're going to emerge in a week. If you have good fertile, if you have moist soil, they're going to come up. Then you'll be able to identify where your beans are, and then you can come in and mulch. I don't recommend mulching like right now after we plant, because if you're using dry grass clippings, chemical-free, seed-free dry grass clippings, straw, or if you have shredded leaves from the fall, you put that on top of your seed bed, and the beans, you may have a very thick area in one spot and very little in the other. You can hamper the development or the growth of the beans because you're smothering them out. It's just the same premise as if you're covering bare soil in order to prevent weeds from germinating, same premise. So you want to wait until they come up. They're going to come up 5-7 days, no problem at all. Just make sure the soil stays moist. So whether you're growing pole beans in a trellis like this, or bush beans that take 40 to 60 days to reach maturity, they only produce for 2 to 3 weeks and their life cycle is over. So whatever works best for you. Bush beans work very, very well in containers. Pole beans do as well, but you have to affix some type of makeshift trellis for them to crawl up, whether it's just a couple of sticks in the back or something elaborate such as a fence or other device. So if you never planted pole beans or green beans, you're missing out on one of the easiest crops that you can grow in your garden. When it comes to growing herbs, you can either purchase them from your local independent garden center or start them from seed. We're going to plant some lemongrass, in which we had started from seed way back in November in just a party cup. And then once it got big enough, we moved it to a 1-gallon container we had in the attic. So we're going to plant this in the ground here. You can see there's a partial stalk here that's bent or creased there. I'm just going to leave it be and let the plant do its natural thing. I've taken the post hole digger, which is not a required tool here, but it certainly makes the hole nice and round, and you don't have a lot of soil and flying around. It works very well. It's centralized where I'm going to plant. Now with lemongrass, which is a green, we want a lot of nitrogen. I want this thing to really blow up. So what I'm going to do is, you want to plant the same depth that it was in the container, and we're pretty close there. So I'll knock just a little soil down. I'm going to do something that I tell people not to do, and that's I'm going to fertilize twice in the same hole. I'm going to put what is recommended sustained fertilizer, 1/4 cup, at the base. I'm going to pull this out, and way to get these out, whether you're buying them from the garden center or you grow them yourself. Tip it out. Now this is root bound, and that's the problem with plastic containers like this. If you're starting in a grow bag or the root makers, you don't have that problem. So what I'm going to do here, and that can also contribute to the effects of the top growth. If the top growth is hurting, there's a good possibility in a container that it's root bound and it's lost, the nutrients is used up and the roots are bound up. So I'm just going to tease them just to make it so they realize something is changing and they're going to go out and search. All right. Put it there. Now I'm going to backfill slightly. Go around, pack it in here. Now we're in partial shade right now, and it's late in the evening. Now most of the day this area gets full sun. So I talked about something about the fertilizer, something I tell people not to do, to double fertilize. I'm going to take another recommended 1/4 cup per hole, and I'm going to go around the top. I'm going to over fertilize, put too much nitrogen for this plant, because that nitrogen, that plant's going to pick it up as it needs it. And I want this thing to really explode, because lemongrass can get very large and you can make a lot of dishes. You can do lemongrass tea with it. You can do a lot of things with lemongrass. And this is the largest one that we have, and I want to give it the best opportunity. When the other seedlings that we have already, we'll bring them out and plant them. So lemongrass,
Just like any other herb, it's easy to grow, much more affordable if you grow it yourself than to purchase those small containers at your local grocery store. So it's that time of year. We're a little late, but based on the temperatures, we're okay, if you look at it that way, to plant in our straw bale garden. Now, straw bales is a medium in which you can grow, and you don't need soil. You simply take a straw bale, a golden and yellow in color. That's the straw, that's the byproduct of the grain. Green is the grasses in which animals are fed. So you can get your straw bale, you need to condition the straw bale. You just can't plant seeds in it and they grow. It doesn't work that way. There's a conditioning process in which the internal portion breaks down inside the bale and feeds the plants in which you're growing in it. There's a certain amount of nitrogen you have to add over a duration of period. If you want to know more about that, you can find Joe Karsten's complete straw bale garden book on our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Typical bales will last 2 years, sometimes 1 if it's really loosely bound and you're growing things like potatoes, because you have to bust the bale open in order to get the remnants of the vegetable you're growing. This bale here is actually going on its 3rd year, which is very uncommon. This bale is also wrapped with yellow synthetic twine or baling twine that we use on some of the trellises. That's the way the bale came. These other bales here, I have one bale here that's missing. That was a 2-year-old bale that completely unraveled and fell apart. So I've moved that straw over and is mulching our pepper bed. So I brought this 15-gallon bucket in with the bottom cut off of it and filled it with certified leaf compost from Sioux Growing Supply, and we're going to plant some melons or some pumpkins in that. These bales here, again, 2 years old, they have green twine, which is more of a plastic twine on them. And when I talk about the density, the way the machine makes the bale, the farmer can compress it to allow more material to go in a certain designated area inside the machine. The machine then, once that area is filled or compressed so tight, then it ties it off with these strings. So this, you can tell this bale's a little on the loose. So is this. These will last about 1 more year, and that'll be all. So we've already conditioned the bale last year. Last spring we conditioned these bales. It's a 2-week to 3-week process based on the type of nitrogen in which you use to do that with. So I don't have to go back in here now and recondition them. They're already conditioned. The internal portions have broke down and continue to break down to feed what we're planting. We're going to do melons here and pumpkins because we found that works very, very well in our straw bale garden. So what we want to do here, we just can't take the seeds, and these are some tiger melons, we just can't take the seeds and just shove them in the bale. They do need a little bed of soil. So what we have found to work best is open it up a little bit, fill it with soil, and then we'll plant our seeds in it. Now, based on what you're growing, for example, 2 tomatoes is recommended for 1 bale. You just can't pack this thing solid because there's only so much nutrients that it's going to be able to feed the plants in which you're growing. So these tiger melons will take 90 to 100 days, and they're about 1 pound fruit on them, and they look very, very interesting to grow. They're considered a rare variety. And if you look at the seeds, they have very similar characteristics of cantaloupe or a honeydew or a muskmelon seeds. So all we'll do is we will plant 3 seeds in here with the expectation that all 3 will come up, and then I'll thin them down to 2. And then I can do another seed bed here, and we can do that with the melons, the midget watermelons there, as well as the butternut squash and the spaghetti squash. Now when it comes to a device like this bucket here, we've got the bottom cut off. It's just setting on the ground, and I've put about 1.5 cubic feet of certified compost in it. So what we'll do is I'm going to plant some Giardia pumpkins. This is what we grew last year. We had 2 seeds left that were about 6 years old, and we just planted them in an actual bag of certified leaf compost. We turned it on the edge, cut the side open, and planted them. We got 45 pounds of pumpkin. So I've saved those seeds. Those are some of the best pumpkin pies that we've ever had. So with a situation like this, we do this for a couple of reasons. And we're going to plant some in the ground here. We're going to do some Dacaldia winter squash here. But I want to do this because, one, it's enriched soil, good leaf compost. Two, there's a lot of mass here that's going to hold moisture to a similar degree like the straw bale will. And that's the key thing, they'll hold the moisture so these things have plenty of water. And pumpkins, as they vine, you'll see they'll root on the stem into the ground and actually pull nutrients that way. So just want to, we'll just plant them. I'll plant probably 3 here. These are good seeds. I know they're going to all come up. And that's what we got there. So that's done. Now with the delicate squash here, we all are familiar with the mounds that we make, and that's to help warm the soil earlier in the season. Well, I just added some compost into the native soil. This is where the bale once were. So a lot of that nutrients has worked into the soil, and I've added some more compost. So I'm just going to plant directly in the ground just like I would carrots or radishes or peas. And actually going to do basically a drill. It's uncommon, but it does work. And I'm going to go about a ½ inch deep. Again, these will take 95 to 110 days. Butternut squash, spaghetti squash, kind of in that same realm of time. So these are full summer linked crops. And cover them up. And it's really that easy. So if you've never grown in straw bales or elevated buckets or squash in the ground, it's something that works very well. Now, again, the straw bales hold moisture much, much better than the bucket will with the compost or the native soil. But that doesn't mean you don't have to water it. You have to still water it, but it's less frequently. Thanks for joining me. Join me again for more organic gardening and food preserving. I'm Joy Baird, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.